Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com, and we're back with this week's new comic book reviews. And yet another big week. It just seems like it's never going to end. Lots of books. Really quickly, today is an anniversary. Today is the anniversary of The Iron Giant, which was released on this day 22 years ago in 1999. And to say that it's probably one of the best animated features of all time is it's definitely right up there for sure. It's an amazing film, and if you've never seen it for some strange reason, I highly recommend it. I really recommend the special edition from Warner Home Video. It's got tons of special features, and finally given the due that it deserved that it didn't get the first time around. All right. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to comics. First up, Not All Robots, #1. Written by Mark Russell with artwork by Mark Deodato Jr. Now, I'm a huge Mark Russell fan. And, once again, he has a brilliant way of doing satire and social commentary. And what the basic premise of this story is, humans have pretty much ruined most of the world. So what they've done is they've created domes, and also robots pretty much do all the work. But instead of just robots being robots, they're somewhat human because they have emotions. So, there's this dichotomy of, humans versus robots, and it's like, is there going to be a revolution with the robots? What's going to happen? There's a lot of stuff that happens in this first issue. There's a lot of, it's really heavy exposition, but in the sense of it moves the story along. Russell's really good about that, about explaining stuff, but getting the story to move along where you don't notice that you're just sitting there reading exposition. We kind of, get introduced to somewhat of the characters. Obviously, there's a main robot that lives with his family who's just like, I'm tired of this. I hate them. I hate the world. This sucks. I'm going to go jump off a bridge. So, so far he's kind of the main character that looks like we'll be following somewhat. And it's really an interesting story. There's a great cliffhanger at the end of this first issue. It'll be really interesting to see where this story goes. I really like it. The big surprise is Deodato Jr.'s artwork. Now, he's obviously not known. This is really out of his wheelhouse. He even talks about it afterwards, where he almost. He wasn't sure he could do it, and the editor said no. He read the script and liked it, but just wasn't sure. And he was actually a really good choice. I mean, once again, this is way out of his wheelhouse of normalcy, comic book artwork. But I think that was a good challenge for him, and I think it really benefited the story because he had to kind of think differently. And it, when you do something with Mark Russell, you really have to, it's not just a comic book. So. I think it's really interesting. It's highly recommended. It's one of the best comics that came out this week. Next up, we have The Joker Presents a Puzzlebox, #1, written by Matthew Rosenberg with artwork by Jesus Marino and Joshua Hickson. So what the basic premise of this is all the Gotham, all the Batman villains are throwing the Joker a surprise thank you party. He doesn't know why. There's no explanation why this is happening, but. So they're having the party, and all of a sudden, Batman comes in. Everybody else, Robin, the whole Bat gang, and then the police show up. So the story starts off with they're interrogating Joker, and he's just trying to explain, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what's going on. Blah blah blah, and it's kind of interesting. So there's two artists, and Marino does the first part, and then there's flashbacks to like kind of the setup. Because at one point it's revealed, and it's a bit of a spoiler, so spoiler alert, that the Riddler is killed. So the Hickson's artwork, goes, it's kind of the flashback to what Riddler was trying to do. Basically, he was trying to find this key to this apparently puzzle box, and he was killed. Now, when did he get all the pieces? We don't know. We don't know what's going on. But, so that's kind of the basic premise. So at the end of the story, we see the puzzle box at the police station. So, what's all this going to be? Here's the thing. I enjoyed it, but it didn't necessarily overwhelm me. I think it was decent and everything. I really enjoyed the artwork. But the story was just like, it was nice, it was good, but I don't think it was anything like amazing, And it's certainly not bad. It's decent. I think it's just one of those things to where it wasn't overwhelming to me. Now this was a digital first, so this is the print version of that. And once again, I'll go back to Marino and Hickson's artwork is really, really good here. It really kind of helped along. Marino had the tough job of, a lot of his was just dialogue. Now he did have the big action scene, but once again, I think it's okay if you're looking for a Batman book. It's a miniseries, so it's okay. Next up, we have the Me You Love in the Dark #1. Written by Scotty Young with artwork by George Corona. Now, this is the same team that did Middle West that wrapped up a little while back. So they're back and doing another book. So what it is this girl who's an artist. She's trying to find some place to do her artwork, to be inspired. She finds this basically quote unquote haunted house, and she's trying to be inspired. And then finally, a ghost shows up at the end of the first issue, but we're not quite sure, like what's going on. There's not a lot here in the beginning. I mean, obviously it sets up the main artist, character, and we get to know her fairly well and kind of a little bit. But I think it's actually a good issue. I think it gives you enough of it explains the premise, what's going to happen, what's all going on. And it's a setup issue. I mean, but I did really like what I read. I did enjoy it. And of course you have Corona's artwork, which is really, really gorgeous. If you read Middle West, once again, same team, but the artwork is just really fabulous here. It's really, really good. And once again, there's not a lot of action. So, it's just really just nice looking artwork. Next up, we have Porcelain #1 by Maria Lovelit. Now, the basic premise here is, think of Alice in Wonderland meets Dario Argento. And that's the basic premise here. So it's kind of out in the desert. The mom sends the daughter to town, obviously Alice. And she says, don't stray from the path. Well, she strays from the path and falls into the tea party. So that's the basic setup here. It's a pretty simple story, but as always, Lovett's artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, this is a really gorgeous looking book. And I think, once again, I know, some of the stuff that she does herself with writing and drawing, has its ups and downs, but this one's really interesting, I think, because we all, pretty much everybody knows the Alice in Wonderland stories. So, it's interesting. I think this is something to kind of keep an eye on and see where she goes with it in the second issue. And once again, I'll go back to the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. And it really has, there is let's face it, the Alice in Wonderland story is kind of creepy on its own. So when you add like a Dario Argento kind of horror spin to it, then yeah, you get something really visually unique here, and it's really interesting. Next up, we have Lucky Devil #1, written by Colin Bunn with artwork by Fran Gallen. Now, the premise of this is there's a guy, he's in group therapy, he's like an AA type meeting, and he kind of explains, hey, things are screwed up in my life. So what it is this guy's kind of a loser. He lives with this really hot girl, and she's sleeping with some other guy. And, he has a crap job. He has an awful boss. So he gets possessed by this demon. And so, the demon kills everybody in the office. Basically he fulfills the things that this guy would never do. But the guy figures out he's possessed by a demon. He gets exorcised, like Exorcist, but the difference here is the demon is thrown out, but the guy still retains the demon's power. So, now you have the guy that's in control of the powers. What's he going to do? Because he discovers that the demon is now just like a demon stuck in our world, but he has no powers. So it's a really interesting concept. I really have to give it to Bunn that this is really a good first issue. And it really sets up a lot of really interesting things. And I actually really enjoyed it. I was really quite surprised because Bunn, he writes a ton of books, and sometimes they're not always when you're wearing thin on work, you don't always get the best stuff. But this is a big surprise. Gallen's artwork is really really nice here. It's a really good looking book. It's definitely it has a fair amount of gore in it. It's not super gory, but it's definitely that's something if that turns you off a little bit. But otherwise, I really this was a big surprise, and I really really enjoyed it. I think it's well worth checking out this week. I really enjoyed it. Next up, we have Deadpool Black and White and Blood #1. So this issue contains 3 stories. The first one is by Tom Taylor and Phil writing, and Phil Noto the artist. The next one is Ed Brisson and Walsey Portaccio. And the last one's written and drawn by James Stokey. Now, this is interesting because everybody seems to be doing these black and white, or black and one color, two color sort of things. And right now I have to say, I've enjoyed the ones from Marvel. DC's kind of really kicking butt. They obviously really started with, Batman Black and White, and the Superman Red and Blue, and Wonder Woman Black and Gold. It's been really good. The Wolverine was really good. The Carnage one was kind of okay. There were some good stories, but, I'm not a big necessarily Carnage fan. Deadpool's interesting because, we all like Deadpool, but I think that the problem you kind of have with Deadpool is there's 2 Deadpools. You have the original Deadpool who, was more of a, X-Men character, and killed people left and right. And then, now we have the funny one. So I think the thing is, with the story, Tom Taylor's story is good. I did enjoy Tom Taylor, and of course the Phil Noto art's good. But I think it kind of ran into the problem a little bit. It wasn't entirely funny, and it wasn't entirely serious. But I think it was a good one. I will say that. The second one was the one that the Ed Brisson one was just kind of almost a little it was like a little too silly, and it just, it was good, once again, enjoyable. The real win for this one is the James Stokey one that is really, really good. It's really, it finds a way to really do that tongue-in-cheek thing really well. It's an insanely stupid story, and that's why I think it works so well. Because you're not just kind of like going, haha, there's definitely funny stuff in there, but it's not necessarily cheap jokes. There's just stuff that's just stupid, it's so, it's stupid funny. And I really enjoyed that. And, once again, if you're a Deadpool fan, these are great because they're standalone stories. You can read, this issue, the next issue. You don't have to pick up all the issues. You can, if you have some favorite creators that are doing the 3rd issue, you can get that one. So there is, that sort of thing going on. So, in that respect, if you're a Deadpool fan, I think it's worth checking out. Otherwise, I think it might be worth waiting for the trade of this when it finishes up. Next up, we have Snelson #1 written by Paul Contant with artwork by Fred Harper. Now, this supposedly, they're saying it is the first funny book series in 50 plus years to star a stand-up comic, we think, and we're pretty sure. Well, yeah, it's about a stand-up comic who, tries to be edgy. And of course, the story has the, kind of the woke, jokes and Me Too sort of, angle. And, honestly, it was okay. Well, it wasn't very good. Let's be honest. It really wasn't very good. I see what Contant was trying to do here, but it just never quite goes anywhere. I think that's really the big problem with it. It just, it's like, okay, the guy's a complete a-hole. Great, but what's the point? And I think that's really where I struggle with it. It just really doesn't have much of a point that I felt. On the plus side, I really enjoyed Harper's art. That was actually a really big plus. And also, yeah, the cover is Peter Bagge. I can't remember the last time Peter Bagge's done a cover in a while. So that was a treat. And the artwork's really, really good. It's just, the story is just not there. It's just really, it's like, okay, that's great, but no, not really. So that one's definitely a skip this week. Next up, we have Suicide Squad Get Joker #1, written by Brian Azzilio, with artwork by Alex Maleev. Now, This is a Black Label book. So what I liked about this is it wasn't just a regular Suicide Squad book in the sense of, yes, it has Harley, but literally she's the only kind of regular member of Suicide Squad that's in here. It's got Red Hood, it's got Silver Bashy, it's got Firefly, and it's just characters that you never kind of see in, they're just not regular Suicide Squad characters, and some of them aren't even regular, like, regular DC type characters. I really enjoyed that. So what it is Red Hood gets sent to jail, and Amanda Waller comes and offers him the deal like she does with all the Suicide Squad. But what happens is the Joker kills Amanda Waller and takes over the Suicide Squad. So that's the setup in this issue while they're on the mission. And it's like, whoa. So I think this, I really have to give Zerlio really props for this, because there's two things that he's done really well here. First of all, it's not like the quote unquote kind of fairly regular Suicide Squad team. That's a big plus, because you kind of don't know what these characters are going to do in a team environment. Then you have like the Joker being in charge. You're like, wow, this really changes, like, what's he going to do with them? And we don't know, but that's, really the interesting thing. And then you also have Malev's artwork that is just absolutely gorgeous. And it's a big plus for this book. I mean, it's a big win. And, it's just a great looking book, and with a great story. It's really, really well worth checking out. Now there's two covers. The one that I got and I showed you was the George Fornes artwork. He's the artist on Rorschach, and I really liked that alternate cover. So, pick which one you choose, but I went with the second one. But I think it's really worth checking out. And of course, with the Suicide Squad movie, that's DC's all Suicide Squad at the moment. So, but I think it's really, I really enjoyed it. It was a nice surprise. Next up, we have the final issue of Skybound X number 5. So this issue has the final chapter of Rick Grimes 2000. Then written by Robert Kirkman and artwork by Ryan Ottley. Then we have 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, written by Kyle Starks with artwork by Chris Schweitzer. We have Code Combat Orb Defense Engines, written by Robert Kirkman and drawn by Jason Howard. And then finally we have a Gasolina story written by Sean Mankiewicz with artwork by Nico Walter. Now, I've been enjoying this. So the Rick Grimes 2000, it was good. I think the ending was kind of like, it was ho-hum. It wasn't anything that really shocked me per se. I mean, the lead up, I think, was better than this final chapter. Not that it was bad, but it just seemed like it kind of petered out towards the end. And it's like, okay, that's nice, but, wasn't really anything that was surprising or shocking. So, but once again, you have the Ryan Ottley art, and it really was a plus for that. It's a really good looking story. It's just, in the end, it was kind of like, it kind of petered out towards the end. The 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, I love that book. This is a side story. He beats him and a monkey get into a fight. That's all I got to say. That is worth the price of admission of this book. That is freaking hilarious all on its own. Now, the Combat Orb Defense Engines, I really enjoyed Jason Howard's artwork. He did the recent miniseries Big Girls, and that was really good. Unfortunately, the story is just kind of basic. I mean, honestly, as I'm sitting there reading it, I mean, it's written by Robert Kirkman, and it just seems like these are toys and they're making a comic out of it. That's really what it seemed like. It wasn't bad, but it was just like really kind of eh. It was like, it felt like a toy tie-in book or, something like that. And it was just kind of, the Gasolina story, the final story Mankiewicz and Walter doing the artwork is really good, and Gasoline is a really good book, and this is where they've done it right, in the sense of they gave you a taste of what that book is, but it's a self-contained story. You don't have to really know these characters or anything. It gives you a really good setup, so that's a real plus. In the long run, this has been really good. It's giving you short stories, giving you a taste of the characters. Some have been better than others, but overall, they've all been good. There's just some that have excelled more than others, but I think it's worth checking out now. Skybound said that they are not going to reprint this as a trade, so hopefully you've been buying it, or you hopefully are able to find them at your local retailer. But so maybe one day they'll reprint it, but they're saying no. Next up, we have Justice League Infinity #2, written by J.M. DeMatteis and James Tucker, with artwork by Ethan Beavers. Now, this continues the first story, but what it is, it kind of almost starts. There's threads from the first story, but it kind of starts a new chapter within that thread of Superman being switched. So you have like the universe where Superman was raised by Vandal Savage, i.e. kind of Nazi Superman, and then you have our Superman, and they get switched. So that's the basic premise of this story in this issue that sets up the next. It will run through at least the next issue. Once again, these are it's done by the same team who did the Justice League animated series. That's really good. So this is very much in that same vein, of story wise, and they even refer back to episodes that they've done, because the continuity from the show goes into this comic. So that's actually really nice. So if you haven't watched them in a while, you probably want to go back and watch some of these if you've read this comic. And then Beavers does a really nice job of capturing the animated style. So that's a really, it's a good all ages book, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's not, it's not written for kids, because it's definitely written not for young kids. I'd say just because they wouldn't understand it, I think. But it's like like little, like 8 and up probably be fine for this. But, once again, it's a fun book if you enjoy, like the Batman animated comics and stuff like that. This is definitely be in your wheelhouse. Next up, we have The Nice House on the Lake, #3, written by James Tynan IV, with artwork by Alvaro Martinez Bueno. This book continues to just blow my mind. So we have this group of people that are on this lake. They're in a bubble, and the rest of the world apparently has come to an end. So, what it is now, Tynan is now deeping digger into, people kind of going stir crazy, trying to find out why are they here? What's going on? And that's what this issue really kind of focuses on. We're starting to now break off individual characters, and they, like one guy is going around the island to find out, where the walls are, how, what, there's all these symbols and everything. What do they mean? What do they do? So that's a lot of this issue of kind of like, kind of somewhat detective work on finding out what's going on. And it really just continues to like, just, unfold at a really naturally great pace that just really, it's just really captivating. And it really just, you're like, as soon as you're done, you're like, oh man, I want some more. So, once again, I'm really enjoying this, and Martinez Bueno's artwork is just gorgeous. And a lot of it, is just people standing around talking, but it's just the, how he's able to capture that all is just, it's really an amazing looking book. It's honestly, the artwork is just stunning, and it really just matches the story so well. It's amazing. So I'm really enjoying it, and you really need to be checking this out. Next up, we have The Good Asian #4, written by Porcelain Pichot, with artwork by Alexandra Ternevsky. Now, once again, I'm a big fan of this book, the noir aspect. I love noir. And, Pichot has really done a great story, and I really enjoyed this issue a lot, because we had Frankie and Hark back together, kind of, the brothers back together, and I won't reveal what happens, but there's a lot of like backstory and kind of, things that bubble up from the past, between Frankie and Hark, that really, I think, really adds a lot to the overall story here. And, there is the mystery of Hark trying to find the girl, and man, yet this, in the beginning, you're like, okay, how's Frankie going to fit in? And he fits in so perfectly, and it's just so amazing. It's really a great emotional story. It's really, this issue was just really, I mean, this book has been great, but this issue was absolutely fantastic. And Tarnowski's artwork is just continues to really blow me away. He just really captures the feel of noir and the look of that period that the story set in. And it's a really good book. And if you're not reading it, it's a real shame. I'm really enjoying it. I really, really recommend this book. Next up, we have Swamp Thing #6, written by Ram V and with artwork by Mike Perkins. Now, this issue, so last issue was kind of a bit of a standalone issue. So we're kind of back to the main storyline. And that was alluded to in the last issue. Now the Suicide Squad is now hunting for Swamp Thing. So they're down in the jungle, and, that's the basic premise of this story. I don't want to give too much away. It's a really good story. I would say if you haven't been reading it, you might be a little lost, but it's not too bad, if you kind of pick it up because of Suicide Squad. But I think it'll give you a really good taste of how Ram V is really telling the story so well. And it may seem like that, this is, a cheap tie-in because of the Suicide Squad movie. And I really didn't feel that. I think Ram V, it felt really natural for them to be going, there's obviously a reason that they're going after him. So I think that is going to be interesting to see. And, Mike Perkins continues to just really knock it out of the park with the artwork. I love the artwork. The way he lays out some of the pages is just, it's so amazing, and it's so beautiful, and it's really, I'm very picky when it comes to Swamp Things. There's been some really not good ones, but this Ram V and Perkins is really nailing it on this book, and I really continue to recommend this book. Next up is Sensational Wonder Woman #6, written by Sienna Grace, with artwork by Paul Peltier and Norm Rapman. Now, these are standalone stories. What these are digital first, and it's a way for people to kind of read Wonder Woman. Now, I've been reading most of the series on and off, but I was really excited because I really like Grace as a writer. He's done some really good stuff recently, and I've really enjoyed it. And I have to say, he really nailed it with this book, in the sense of it's really great for new readers. Like, you don't have to know, pretty much anything. He tells you exactly, who the villains are and all this stuff. So what it is Queen Bee has possessed the Amazons. So Wonder Woman has to go back to Themyscira to, figure out what's going on. Then she finds out all the Queen Bee is possessed, turn them into her hive. So Diana, because they're on Themyscira, says, well, I'll battle, the villains to the win. And if I win, you have to let the Amazons go. And that's the basic premise. But what he does here is, for old, people who really know Wonder Woman, he really throws all the villains in and everything. It's great. There's just a ton of, it's a lot of fun. That's the other thing. He tells a really good story and makes a lot of fun. Then on top of this, you have this really good story, and then you have Peltier's artwork that he really just nails it. He really brings this whole story together, and it's a great book. It's wonderful. It's a standalone issue. You can just pick it up. It stands on its own. It's really great. I really enjoyed this, and it was that's the last issue of this miniseries. I know they're coming out with a trade, but if you find this issue, really pick it up. I really enjoy it. Next up, we have Firepower #14, written by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samney. And once again, I'll go back. Yes, it's issue 14, and if you haven't been reading this book, shame on you. This book continues to really blow me away, and I think a lot of it really has to do with that chemistry that Kirkman and Samney have on this book. So now the family's back, and the kids have discovered that they're starting to the firepower is starting to come to them. So in this issue, we also find out that the monastery is, these snakes, like the evil snakes, have now kind of, they've possessed the bad guy, and then you find out that there's this like snake. Kind of the snakes turn into a person that is coming after the family. And then, of course, you have the stories from the monastery in the past to the family and his old flame from the monastery, who he thought was dead. She's not. She comes back. The wife's pissed. It's just crazy stuff. The story continues to be great every issue. Sam Neill continues to just knock it out of the park. I love his artwork, and he really just bringing the A game here. And it's really wonderful. And continued to be picking this up. There are trades of the first 12 issues. Just go out, just go buy them. Buy them now, go read them. You're going to love it. Next up, we have The Conjuring the Lovers, number 3. So the main story is written by David L. Johnson McGoldrick and Rex Ogle, with artwork by Gary Brown. And then we have the Accordion Monkey backup written by Tom Seeley, with artwork by the amazing Kelly Jones. And then you have Dave Johnson doing the artwork for the Macabre mail order ads in the book. Now, the main story is finally, it was a little rough in the second issue, but we're finally kind of getting to this, I think, got it back over the hump to where it's kind of back on track a little bit. It's like the second one was good, but it spun its wheels a little bit. This one really gets back on track. And we really, the girl, we find out, kind of now what's going on, is she seeing things, is, what it's really interesting. And then there's the one guy in college that likes her, and then, something looks like bad might happen to him because of her. So there's all that, like I said, it's kind of coming back on track, but the real win, let's be honest, the real win is the Seeley Kelly Jones. It's about one of the little accordion monkeys that makes the music, and it's given to a baby as he's born, and then bad things start happening like every 6 months. So it's definitely, it's a great, like, Twilight Zone type story. It's really great. Seeley does a wonderful job on the story. It's just perfect. And then you have Kelly Jones' gorgeous artwork. I mean, he delivers the horror, and it's just really, that made it so worthwhile. I had no idea that Kelly Jones was doing this. I really actually enjoy this book, and I think the backups, I think it's a great thing. You have the main story, but you have these backups, and it's really wonderful, and I still think it's worth checking out. Next up, we have Crush and Lobo, number 3. Yes, number 3, written by Mariko Tamaki, with artwork by Amike Nalapan. Now, this issue, so Crush goes to visit her father, Lobo, in prison. And I can't really develop much of the story, but let's just say that Lobo has a plan. That's all I'm going to say. And it's really interesting because we're still, I love how Tamaki deals with this whole father-daughter relationship, because obviously this is going to put a whole new twist into her relationship with her dad. And it'll be interesting to see if she doesn't actually end up killing Lobo, in the end, after what happens in this issue. This is really a fun issue. I'm really enjoying this. This third issue was quite a surprise, and really changes, like, okay, what's this? Where are we going with this whole thing? And I really have to give it Tamaki on that. She really just, she knew where she was going. We didn't see it coming, and we're just like, I mean, you had an idea, but you're like, oh. So yeah. And then Nana Plan's artwork continues to really just, there's a really great, there's a double page spread of like her and Lobo, and it's gorgeous, and the artwork is really amazing. I'm really enjoying this story. It's really kind of catching, really kind of caught me off guard. So I still think it's worth checking out. I think it's a fun little book. Then next up we have Ballistic number 3, written by Colin Bunn, with artwork by Jonah Scarf. So the basic premise here is we kind of have these, I guess you could say, like, mutants, and they've come to Earth, and they kind of kill people, but we still don't know quite why. But what is happening is, so the one lady whose family was killed by them, she's setting up a revenge plot, and they're coming to get her. But, they basically have to, they go to this, like, national park, and, the cops come in, and guess what? They just toast the cops left and right, because they know, because she's somewhat kidnapped one of them, but it's one that doesn't, is not really part of the group anymore. And she says, like, they're coming for you. So that's really what kind of happens in this issue. And I'm actually really enjoying it. And there's a nice twist at the end here that I really, once again, Bunn, like it seems to be either, like, good or misses the mark, but this one's definitely good. And I think it's hitting a nice stride, especially with this third issue. Scarf's artwork continues to really be nice. And of course, there's quite a bit of action, and it's really a good looking book. I'm really enjoying it. So I think I think it's worth checking out. I'm really kind of enjoying it. Next up, we have Geiger #5, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank. So they have made it to the bunker where the president is, and then so Geiger and the two kids are there. They don't know, because he has the rods, and they don't know that he's like, kind of the nuclear man. And then we find out that the son, the boy, he has leukemia. So they're like, oh, well, we really can't fix him because we have limited resources. So we have a way of just putting them out of her misery. Like, they're just gonna kill the kid. The daughter flips out, or her sister flips out, and she's like, screw you. And so then that's where we kind of get in this issue of they're now in the bunker, Geiger, the kids, and the two-headed dog, and they're not happy. So Jeff Johns continues the story, and of course the King of Las Vegas is following their trail, so that is going to lead into further issues. So it's moving along really well. Johns is really developing the story really well. It's panning out quite well. And it's still an enjoyable ride. And then, of course, you have Gary Frank's gorgeous artwork that continues to just be wonderful. It's really good stuff. And it's a really good book. And I still think it's, we're on the 5th issue, and I still think it's worth reading. So that's always a plus. And finally, this week, we have Red Room #3, written and drawn by Ed Piskor. I don't really know what more to say about this book. You're either going to get what he's trying to get, or you're going to be really disgusted by this book. So, I'll pretty much say each issue is individual, but it involves, somebody either watching or being involved with the Red Room. And really what Ed is doing here, and I'll say it again, this is social commentary. It's disturbing social commentary, but, he's really exploring things that, are it's not so much, once you look past the gore and the stuff like that, you look at, take that part of the equation out, and then look at what he's saying, like how people react to it, how in this one, this guy in this, he finds, he works for the government, and they're trying to find the Red Room, and, he's like, oh man, they got our code. And, there's a lot more going on than that surface, gore and stuff. And I think once you look past that, and if you're able to look past that, it's quite interesting, the commentary that he is talking about here. And I think, once again, this is not for everybody. I mean, it's a tough read every issue, but it's interesting, so if it's something that you're willing to like give a chance, flip through it and see if you can handle it. And if you can, get past that first layer, and I think you'll find something really, really interesting here. It's not done often in comics, and of course it's rarely done in this way, but once again, the story, Piskor's artwork is gorgeous, no matter what you think. I mean, this is really a gorgeous book in the sense of it's an old EC comic. There's no gray area. That's exactly what it feels like, especially art-wise. But once again, it's not going to be for everybody. So be forewarned. There you go. That's going to do it this week. We went through pretty good. Once again, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach. You can visit their website. You can also visit the store. Ryan and Annie and Eddie do a great job. They have a great pull service. Make sure you don't miss any of your books. They also offer trades and hardcovers at 30% off. It's a great store. They have a sister store, same name, but not related. Chris and her team in Pulp Fiction Comics Culver City. They do the same thing. They have a great team, pull service, offer discounts on the trades. We're going to, once again, be safe. Get vaccinated, wear your mask out in public. It's getting bad again. Please be safe. Take care of yourselves, and really get vaccinated. This is really very important at this point. I would imagine that most people that watch this hopefully are vaccinated, and if you know anybody who's not vaccinated, please, just see if you can get them to get vaccinated, because it's really important, because it's getting scary again. So, and as always, we'll leave it here. Please be kind to one another. Kindness goes a long way. and things are rough out there. So just please be kind. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching, and make sure you support your local comic shops. And we'll do it again next week. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.